Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to learn more about events and how to add events to your bot. Now we explained in the first episode on how to get started with creating your own bot. We did explain a little bit about events, but we're going to go through every single detail regarding or related to the events. Now just to give you a quick example on what are the events, what they are used for and everything. In Highrise, if you move the player in the room, for example, this is an event. It's called player movement. Now, if you tip someone, it's another event that is going to say that this person tipped that player. And if you react to someone, if you send a message, if you send a direct message, if you kick someone from the room, all of those are events that will be triggered if you have them, if you set them with your bot. So let's get started. The very first thing you need to do is head to the bot where we left off. So we're gonna go ahead and open the bot folder. We're gonna we're gonna click on the path and we're gonna type cmd, and then we're gonna do code dot to open the Visual Studio Code. Once you do that, we have this bot. This is where we left things off. Just so you know, if you haven't watched the very first episode, which is getting started, you're gonna find it in the playlist. So, to get started, we have the highrise.sdk.addpotion.com, which is the documentation we're going to be using for the events, for the get methods, and for the post methods later on. But you can also do bit.ly or bit.ly highrise.sdk, and this is the Notion page. It's the same as the add potion, except the add potion is more clean and nicer, and it's just easier to navigate between pages like post methods, get methods. But here it's the same. If you go to get methods, you're gonna find the same get methods in here. I suggest using this one since it's easier to just go back and like you can just navigate between each page, unlike this one. And it makes it easier to copy the code. For example, you see here the copy is more clean and everything's just better. So let's use the add potion for now. We're gonna start with the first event, which is the ready event. So the ready event, we already explained a bit about it. Ready event is triggered when the bot is online. So whenever the bot starts, it's gonna be triggered. This event can be used for telling the bot that the bot is online, or we can make the bot move, for example, in the room. Like let's say the bot starts, we want the bot to move from this point to this point. We're gonna be moving this bot on the ready event. Now, here we have a basic example, which is console.log, the bot is online. This will just log that the bot is online. We also talked about the session. The session is basically an object that stores a lot of information that you may or might not need. I'm gonna go through them, but let's go ahead and copy the example that we have right here. So if I copy this example and I put it here in my code like this, and just gonna remove the session from here, I'm gonna add it in a different console log just to show you what the session is used for. So here, if you see .green, you don't have to worry about that. You can remove it. But in highrise.sdk, I'm using a package called colors. If I do require colors like this, I will be able to use whatever color I want like this. So these color are just for the terminal, which is it's personal preferences, but I like to use them. So if I open the terminal by doing control and backticks, or you can just do terminal and new terminal here, control shift plus backticks, and we start the bot again. Now if you want to start the bot, we have to do app.js, node.js, but you see me doing node. This can be done if you go to the package.json file, and you're gonna check your main file if it matches the main file that you have the bot in. So for example, let's say if you have this as this, like the index.js, you have to change the main from index.js to app.js. So when you change app.js, now we can do node.start the bot. Now as you can see here, the bot is started, bot is ready, it's logged in green, and here's the session that you can use. The session here is an object again that you can use the owner ID, for example, and the room name. Now, if you want the room name, you can go ahead and do session.roominfo.room name. This will log just the room name. This way you can access everything inside the session. This is basically it. As you can see here, we did bot.move.walk just to make the bot move, and you can see it's changed its position to here because we made the bot walk on the ready event. Now this is for the ready event. We don't want the comments for now. Let me just go ahead and delete them. And I don't want the bot to walk, so let's just go ahead and delete that. Now this is for the ready event. Now if we dig deep and we go back to the get methods, we have chat create. Now chat create is basically all the messages that are received in the room. So for example, if you do bot.on chat create, as we did in this example right here, I pretty much explained everything about this event. But again, if you want to include this event, you will have to enable it. You have to enable the messages by doing events.messages. You have to require the events from the SDK first, and then you have to do events.messages. I've already explained this in the previous tutorial, but I'm just going to give you a quick overview on how to use the chat create. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this entire thing. So I'm just going to do bot.on, and here's a list of events. So it's going to be chat create. The chat create takes the user and the message as parameters. The user is an object that contains the user ID and the username. So if I do, for example, const username equal user.username, this will always be the username. And if I do const user ID equal user.id, this will always be the user ID. Now we can say, for example, if the bot.info.user.id is equal to the if equal to the user ID, which is going to return, because we don't want the bot to be sending messages or listening to its own messages. And then we're going to do, for example, if the message equal to hi, we're going to return a message, or we don't have to return here because we don't have any code below, but it's always good to use the return. We're going to return bot.message.send hello there, like that. And let's say you want to include the username who sent the message. For example, if I say hi, we want the bot to reply with hello and then your name. So we're going to go ahead and delete this and open the backticks, and then we're going to do hello, and we're going to @ and then the user name. So just go ahead and do user name. So this will send a message for me. It's going to be saying hello and then my name. So if I go ahead and refresh the bot by doing Ctrl+C or by clicking on the delete icon here to kill the terminal, it's going to kill the terminal. But if you do this, you'll have to open the terminal again, which I recommend using Ctrl+C instead. So no dot to start the bot again. And if you go back to the room and we type hi, the bot is going to say hello and then my name. That's how we want it to be. And that's everything for the chat create. Now for the whisper is between you and the bot. So if you whisper the bot, for example, let's say you whisper the bot hi like this will be logged on the console log. It will not be logged if a user sends a whisper to another user. So only the whispers that sent between the bot and the player will be logged. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do bot.on whisper create. It's the same. It takes the user and the message, and it's literally the same method. So if we just go ahead and include the messages here, because it's already included, the messages here represents the chat event for the messages that is sent in the room and in the bot's whisper. So this event is for both the whisper and the chat create. Now, if you go ahead and go back in get methods and we go whisper create, and we're going to go ahead and copy this example right here, and we're going to be putting it over here. I'm going to explain a little bit about this. So let me just remove this one here. So this will log a whisper and it's going to say that the user with the user ID is send this message and it's in whisper. So if I go ahead and reset the bot using Ctrl+C and then not dot, and we try to whisper the bot. So if I go ahead and whisper the bot and I say hello, for example, this will be logged in the terminal like this, as you can see. Now this is it. Now the whisper can be used for different things. For example, let's say you want commands. Later on, we're gonna be using it in our command handler. We're gonna make commands work in both whisper and chat create, just for the player's convenience. For example, let's say someone want to play a command or execute a command in the bot's whisper and they don't want to show it in the public room. We could use this event. Now moving on in events, we're going to go through them one by one. So let's go ahead and talk about the message create. Now this event has a bit more into it. So the message create is the direct message between you and the bot. So to use the direct messages, we have to enable the event for the direct messages. Let me go ahead and get rid of the playerEmote here just to be more organized. So if you enable the direct messages, which is going to be events.directMessages, And we come here and we do bot.on. This is going to be the message create because it's a message, it's a direct message. Now the message create take 3 parameters, which is the user ID, the one who sent the message, and the conversation, which is going to be the data. The data has a conversation ID and it has the is new. I will explain more about this. Now here there's a third optional parameter. Now Highrise itself does not return the message that is sent in Whisper. For example, if I do message here and I'm going to go ahead and console log the message, and let me just go ahead and refresh the bot. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear the console log and start the bot again. And if I go here and send a direct message to this bot, it will not show anything. If I say hello, if I go back, it's going to say undefined. And this is because the message parameter is a built-in method in the package that I created. And if you want to enable the message, if you want to be able to receive what you are saying or what you are sending to the bot, you will have to enable, you have to put comma here, and you have to enable an option called auto fetch messages. If you set this to true, this will fetch the messages that you that the bot receives in direct. Now this is useful because it's a built-in method again. Instead of using post methods and a lot of lines of codes, I have already included it for you. So if you go ahead and say here, if you whisper instead of say direct message, and then we can pass the user ID, and here we can also pass in the data.id. As I said before, there's a conversation ID which we will be using to send messages to players in direct. So if we do this, and then we're gonna just log in the message here, and I go ahead and refresh the bot again, and I send the bot hello, this will be logged in the terminal. As you can see here, it says hello. It's because we are fetching the messages that are being sent using the auto fetch method in the Highrise instance. Now, if you go ahead and actually, I'm going to explain a little bit more about the message create because this is the biggest event so far. So basically, the message create returns user ID, which is the user ID that's sending the messages, and it does not return an object. So an object is like this. This returns the username and the ID. But in the message create, which is the direct messages, it will only return the user ID for the player who is sending the message in the direct. And the data is usually the conversation ID and if it's new. So for example, here we have the conversation ID, which we can use later on to send direct messages, and I'm going to show you in a bit. But it also returns if it's new. If it's new, it means that I just messaged the bot. If it's not new, it means that we had a previous conversation with the bot. So let's go ahead and do, for example, const convo. Just to make it a little bit short, instead of using data.id all the time, let's just do const convo equal data.id. Now, the method to send direct messages, you can find it here. Let me just go ahead and open a new window here, and you're going to go to post methods and sending messages and direct messages. Now, this is how we send the direct message. As you can see here, if the message equal hello, bot.direct.send, and the data.id, which is the conversation ID, and we're going to say hello world. So let's go back here. And we're going to say, for example, if message equal hello, we're just going to send a direct message. So bot.direct.send. This is similar to the whisper. You can see here, we already included the message and we whisper. For example, if we want to say else if message equal, you don't have to do this, but just to show you, return bot.whisper.send, and then the user ID, and then hello. Now, the whisper usually takes the user ID. Since it's a whisper and it's private, we have to include a target. So the target is going to be the user ID. But in the conversation, which is the direct message, we have to include the conversation ID, which is which we are getting from the data in the message create. So here we can pass in convo, and we can say, for example, hello there. And this way, if we reset the bot, if I go ahead and reset the bot, Control C, no dot, and we send hello to the direct message, the bot should reply to us and it's going to say hello there. It's this simple, it's this easy. Always, whenever you want to use bot.direct.send, it's going to take the conversation ID, which can be found over here. But if you want to use bot.direct.send in the room itself, it will not work. So if I go ahead and do else if message equal direct, and we're gonna do, for example, bot.direct.send, and here we're gonna pass in the user ID. We're gonna say hello. This will not work because this is direct message and it doesn't take the user ID, it takes the conversation ID. But since we log the conversation ID here, I will later explain more about it. But if I go ahead and copy this conversation ID here and I pass it in here in the parameter for the direct send, this will send me the hello there message. Because if I go ahead and reset the bot again, and if I type direct in the room, it will be sent in the direct message. You can see here, hello there, it's sent. This is because we are using the conversation ID. We will later on explain more about how to use the conversation ID or how to use commands in room, and that will be sent in the direct message. So let's go ahead and move on to the next event. So the next event is going to be the playerJoin, which is one of the most important events, which is the event that everyone is using, which can be used to welcome everyone who joins the room. So the playerJoin takes the user object and the position of the user that joined the room. So let's go ahead and enable the join event. Again, remember, you always have to enable the event. So if you go ahead and enable this event, which is for the joins, and we're gonna start the event by doing bot.on, and it's playerJoin. This again takes the user object and the position where the player join. Now the position is not included, you can just remove it if you don't want it, but we're gonna go ahead and say console.log, and we're gonna say that user.username, and we're gonna say joined the room. Now this way we're gonna say that this user has joined this room. So if I go ahead and refresh the bot, and actually let's just add a simple color here. So let's just go ahead and say background and add a random color, and we leave the room or refresh the room. You don't have to leave it. Let me just go back here. We're gonna go back to creation and we're gonna join. If we go back, it says Libano joined the room. Now this way we can welcome players when they join the room. For example, we can go ahead and send a message. Again, it's optional whether you want to send a whisper or you want to send a public message. So let's just go ahead and send a public message. Let's just go bot.message send, and here we can pass in the message that we want. Let's say, for example, hello, and we're gonna mention the user using @user.username. We're gonna say put a comma, for example, and say welcome to. Now if you want to pass in the room name, you can use a built-in method in the highrise.sdk.dev package, which is bot.oath. Actually, bot.oath.room.name. This will automatically return the room name because everything that is inside the built-in methods like the bot.oath or the bot.info are being stored from the session. When we first started, we stored the session, and I showed you that the session returns the room name. And if you want to access the room name, you can just use bot.oath.roomName. And if you want to learn more, you're going to find it in the post methods over here. Now let's go back, and I'm going to say message hello @user welcome to, and we're going to just say, for example, exclamation point. Let's just go ahead and refresh this page to start the bot again. And if I go ahead and join the room one more time, it's going to say hello Lebanon, welcome to Lebanon's home. Now if I go ahead and change the room name, for example, let's say testing room, this will not change the welcome message. You'll see why. If I go ahead and refresh, it's going to say Lebanon home. It's because the room name was stored when we first started the bot. If I go ahead and refresh the bot and start it again, it will be changed because when you start the bot, it's storing the room name in the methods. If I go ahead and join, you can see here, welcome to testing room. So it worked. Now, a similar way is to include the playerLeave event. Now the playerLeave only takes the user object, which is the username and the user ID. Again, you have to enable the user playerLeave by doing enable events.leave. This will enable the event. Now for the playerLeave, I don't know how you guys gonna use it, but for example, let's just console log and say that the username left the room, for example, and you're gonna just do a red color for now. You can send a whisper here, because if you try to send a whisper to the user that left, I mean they are outside the room, so technically it will not work. So you can send a message, for example, you can do bot a message to send, and you're gonna say mention them if you want, and you do username, and you could say goodbye, for example, goodbye, and you can just pass in the, for example, the wave icon. If you don't know how to use emojis, you can just do the Windows key and dot on your keyboard. This will display the emoji list. If I go ahead and refresh the bot and start it again, this should log the player left the room. For example, if I go ahead and leave, here you can see it left the room, and it also sent a message in the game, but you can't see it because obviously I left the room. Now let me just go ahead and refresh this and clear it, because the colors are annoying. Anyways, so let's move on to the next event, which is going to be the player emote. Now the player emote, I already explained it, but I'm gonna explain it real quick again. So the player emotes, we have to enable the emotes here. It's gonna be events.emotes. And if we go scroll down and we just add the emote, so it's gonna be player emote. It takes the sender who sent the emote, it's gonna take the receiver who received the emote, and it's gonna take the emote ID as a parameter. Now the names here, you can call it whatever you want. You can call this emote, you can call this emote ID, whatever you want. Now let's go ahead and console.log, for example. And we're gonna say sender is the same as the user, which take the username and the user ID. Now sender.username performed an emote on receiver.username, and we can just pass in here the emote ID, for example, doing emote ID. Now this way we can manipulate this however we want. Like we will later on go through each event. We're gonna create creative stuff when someone creates an emote, for example, or anything like that. But for now, let's just stick with this. Since we enabled the emotes here, this will be logged in our console log. So if I do not dot, and we're gonna go back to the Highrise, and if we perform any emote here, for example, and if we go back here, it's gonna say Libano performed an emote on Libano. It's gonna be used to get the emote's name. For example, if I perform another emote, which is gonna be like this one, for example, we're gonna see here emote pose, and this can be used to make players perform specific emotes. What else do we have? Okay, so the playerReact, similar to the emote, is the exact same thing as the emote, like literally the exact same thing. So if you go back here and we enable the reactions, if I do events.reactions and enable it and go back here and we do bot.on and then playerReact, and it's going to be the same sender because we're sending an reaction to someone, and then there's going to be reaction.id. The sender, again, is an object that has the username and the ID for the sender. Sent A, and we're going to do the reaction ID here to the receiver.username. So this way we're going to say that this user sent a reaction to this other player. So if you go ahead and refresh the bot and start it again, it will be logged in here. So if I go ahead and send a thumbs up to the user, it's going to be logged in here. Now this I like this event a lot. You can use a lot of things. For example, let's say if you react to the bot, we want the bot to perform an emote on you, right? Or let's say if you react to the bot with a heart, it's gonna send you a heart back, or any reaction in general. So let's go ahead and do it. So if we say, again, if you wanna access the bot's ID, we can use bot.info.user ID. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and say if receiver.id equal to the bot.info.user.id, which is the receiver who is receiving the reaction, equal to the bot ID, we are gonna perform a few things inside of this. So the first thing we can do is basically send a reaction back to this player. So we're gonna go ahead and say bot.player.react, and we're gonna react to the player who send the reaction, which is gonna be the sender.id, and the reaction can be, for example, heart here. But if you don't know the reactions, we can do an easier method, which is which is here, we're going to require the reactions from the highrise.sdk package. And if we access them here, reactions, we can choose whatever you want, wink, wave, heart, or whatever. But for now, if you don't want to include anything in particular, we can just return the reaction ID just like this. For example, if I send a heart, the bot will send a heart to me. So let's go ahead and refresh the bot, start it again, go back to the game and send the bot a heart. The bot will send me a heart. If I send the bot a clap, the bot will clap. Anything that I do, the bot will just do it again. Now this way you can listen to the playerReact. Let's go back to the get methods and playerTip. Now the playerTip is similar to the bot emote, the playerEmote and the playerCreate, which is playerTip here. And it's going to be taking the sender, the receiver, and the tip. Now the tip is an object here. It's not just the tip, which is a bit different from the reaction ID and the emote ID. But again, if you want to use the playerTip, you have to enable it. So let's go ahead and enable the tips. It's going to be in tips like that. And if you go scroll down, for example, I'm just going to say console.log. Now the sender is also an object. The sender, the username, sent. And here we can do tip. Now the tip is an object. The tip has an amount and a type. Now the type is always going to be gold. So we're gonna do send tip.amount, and then we're gonna do tip.type, which is gonna be the gold, to, and the receiver.id. Now this way we can integrate this. For example, I'll show you in a sec. If I go ahead and refresh the bot and start it again. Let me just do yellow here just so you can see. If I tip the bot 1 gold, it's gonna say, oops, I am sorry for this. Okay, perfect. Now if I start the bot again, I sent a tip. You can go back here. It says limit of sent 1 earned gold to the bot. Here, because receiver.id I messed up, we have to do receiver username to know who is sending the tip. And direct message is logged is because if you go back here, it's gonna see in the direct message that this player has sent you a tip. Okay. Now this is for the player tip. What we can do here, we can do a few things. We can do, for example, let's go ahead and say if the receiver who is receiving the tip is equal to the bot ID, which is bot.info.user.id, we're gonna do a few things here. So we're gonna message the bot and we're gonna message the user in a whisper, and we're gonna say, for example, thank you for tipping. So we're gonna do bot.whisper.send, and who sent the tip is the sender.id, and we're gonna say thank you for the tip, and we're gonna just include a heart, for example, just like this. And then we're gonna do, for example, bot.player.emote, and here we can pass in the sender.id and the emote. Now if you don't know the emote IDs, you can go back here all the way on top, and we're gonna require the emotes. We already have it already. See here, let me just remove it to show you. So we're gonna require the emotes like this, and we're gonna pass in the emote here, and then it's an object, so we have to use, it's an array, so we have to select the emote that we want. Let's say, for example, teleporting dot and the ID of the emote. Now if we go ahead and refresh the bot will send me a whisper, and it's gonna say thank you for the tip, and it's also gonna make me perform the teleporting emote. So if I go ahead and send the bot a tip, it's gonna say thank you for the tip, and it's gonna make me perform an emote. This is it for the events. Oh, okay, there's a few more. Let's go through them. It's playerMove, roomModerate, voiceCreate. So the playerMove is a bit different than the other events. We're gonna enable it first. Let's go ahead and enable it. So events.movements. And if you scroll down, if you do bot.on, and it's gonna be player. What was it? The event name? It's playerMove, right? Yeah, playerMove. Now the playerMove takes the user object and the position object. Now the user object is similar to the other one that we were using, which is the user ID and the username, but the position is a bit different. Now the position can have two types of position, which is the anchor or which is the XYZ. So the anchor is if you sit on this chair right here, this is an anchor, and if you move, this is an XYZ. And to tell the difference between them, we can perform the following, we can add the following check. So we're gonna say if x in position, we are gonna log that the player moved in this position, or else we're gonna log something else. So we're gonna go ahead and say console.log, and we're gonna be like, for example, user.username. We can also pass in the user ID since it's a log and it's not gonna matter. We're gonna do, for example, position.x, and we're gonna do position.y, and they're gonna do position.z. Now this position will return xyz because we're checking if the x is inside the position. Now if the x is inside the position, we are logging the xyz, and we can also log the facing, which is position.facing. Else, if the x is not in the position, so for example, if this value is not in the position, which is gonna be the entity or the anchor, which is the chair, we're gonna log a different statement. So we're gonna do, it's gonna be the same for at first with username, and it's gonna be user.id, and here we're gonna say, instead of position.x, we're gonna do position.anchor ix, and it's gonna do position.entity id, just like this, just to make things a little bit nicer. We can move this here, put it here. Now this way, the bot, if I refresh the bot, and the bot is gonna check now. If I move and sit, it's gonna log the entity ID and the anchor. If I go ahead and move and sit on another, it's also gonna log the entity ID, which is the one that we specified here. Now if I go ahead and move in the room, it's gonna log the XYZ of the room. For example, we could use this XYZ to make bot walk here when the bot starts. So let's go ahead and do it. So if we go ahead and start the bot, if we go ahead, move all the way up to the ready event, which is gonna be ready event. This is the ready event. We can do bot.move, .walk, and here we can pass in 4.5, which is the data we have below, and here we can pass in the front. Right, now if you don't know all the faces, we could include the facing here. If you include the facing, we can use the facing to specify which face we want. The facing.front right, just like this. This will include the front right facing. If you go ahead and refresh the bot, let's go ahead and refresh the bot. See, the bot started and it walked towards us. Now the roomModerate, and the last one is going to be the voiceCreate. Now the roomModerate is a bit complicated. Let me just go ahead and explain real quick about the roomModerate. So the roomModerate takes the moderator ID and not the moderator name, but I'm going to show you how to get the moderator name once they, for example, kick someone, and the target ID. And then we're going to do the action, which is going to be the kick, ban, or kick, or mute, or unmute, or anything. And duration, let's go back here and create an error function. And this is what we're going to be doing. Now the action can be kick, ban, mute, unmute, all the basic actions in the game. Duration will be set if you have duration for the action. For example, the ban will be set as a duration, and the target ID and the moderator ID. Now you can always have the moderator ID, but we want a way to actually know who is the moderator. So to do that, we can do const moderator equal, and this is going to be await. And if we want to use await, we have to include async here. So async await bot room players username, and this method will return the username of the given ID. Now we're gonna give this the moderator ID like this. This will return the moderator name. Now if you go ahead and console.log, and we're gonna say, for example, moderator performed an action, which is going to be action here, and we're going to say target ID, and we're going to also pass in the duration. Now this duration might always return null if it's a kick or not, but this is just a basic example on how to use it. So if I go ahead and refresh and start the bot again, now this might cause an issue, but I'm going to try to kick the bot. I'm not sure if I can kick it. If I kick the bot, actually it worked. Here it says left the room, it doesn't log it because, okay, it doesn't log it because we forgot to enable it. So we have to enable it. Moderate, events to moderate. Always remember to, even I myself don't remember to enable the events. But if you go ahead and enable the event, and make the bot join, and I'm going to go ahead and kick the bot. If I kick it, the bot, and go back here, it says, oh, not in room. This is because we don't have, there's a method that we actually need to use here. Let me just go ahead and include it. If you go back in the Highrise SDK and scroll all the way down, there's the process.on and handle rejection. Now this is necessary to use because if you use this method, it will catch all the errors that the bot has, and it will not crash the bot. It will just return a promise, an error. So instead of going into details, just include this here. Start the bot again, and if I try to kick the bot again, it's not gonna crash. If I go here, it's not gonna crash. It's just gonna return an error, and it's gonna see not in room. Not in room. This is because moderator ID. Yep. Not in room. This is because the player we are basically kicking is the bot. Okay, so you can ignore this this error. As for the voice, create, I am not going to explain everything about it. I'm just gonna show you how to do it because I'm not gonna open a voice chat right now. So if I go to here and we enable the event, which is the voice event, events.voice, create voice chat, we scroll down and we put the event here, for example, and here you can see. Now the voice create takes the user. Now the user is an object. The user is an object that has a specific, has a set of set of users. Now the user stats can be muted or voice, and this event will be triggered every time someone creates a new voice chat in the room. Every time someone mute their self in the room. Now this event can be used for different purposes. For example, we could use this event to check for the seconds left for the mic, and then we can auto renew the mic later on. But as for now, I am not going to create a new voice chat, so you can test this yourself. You're gonna understand everything. I have already included everything in here. So yeah, that's it for now. This is everything you need to know about events. I am sorry this video was a bit long, but I had to go in depth of every single events because this is the most important part of the SDK. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next tutorial.